Welcome to Trekkie Tuesday. Today the episode is called
Private Little War.
This was a pretty bad episode, filled with questionable things that happened, and I don't really know why. I don't know what the point of this episode was. There was some offensive things. The huge here at Trekkie Tuesdays. I feel like we had a good streak there of like relatively decent episodes, and I don't know, maybe this is just my opinion, but this one is not so great. Some highlights. Well, okay, so there's this one scene where Nurse Chapel is like vigorously hitting Spock, which is kind of weird, so that he'll come back to life. Really, anytime Nurse Chapel is there, like, I like her, but I don't know whether it does more for women or less for women, basically. And I don't know, whatever. I guess that wasn't the worst scene. What else happened? There was, like, this weird creature with a thing on his back, and it was an ape, and it was really cheesy and unnecessary and didn't do anything for the plot, really. There's this, like, witch lady, and she's really weird. I don't know. Very, like, sexual woman trying to, like, that's, like, the only way that she has any power over men is to make them, like, smell this, like, mint leafy thing, which she keeps calling maca, which is, like, a real root, which is, I don't know, whatever, but doesn't, they have magical powers, and, yeah, I don't know. I, like, don't really even feel like talking much about this episode. I kind of got bored halfway through and was like, wait, what's going on? The morals of it were really weird. It was one of these things where you're in a civilization which is clearly, like, less advanced technologically than most other nations, and somehow Klingons are involved and giving guns to bad people, or to people, and so Kirk wants to give guns to his people, and getting involved and teaching them how to shoot each other, and, like, that's the message, is like, well, you have to make sides equal, so just get into a never-ending arms race. The end. And, like, even the characters themselves are kind of like, yeah, that's sort of a bad idea. I don't know. It just seems like the Enterprise shouldn't get involved with cultures that are significantly less, like, I think if you know that a culture has yet to have any sort of relationship with space, they're not trying to go into space, then why would you bother them? Like, if you had a specific goal in mind, like you were like, I see all of you are dying and we have this thing that will help you not die, then that would be great. Or if you were like, oh, well, we really want to teach you how to get into space. Here are the tools you will need. Or if you had any other kind of purpose, it would make sense. But they don't have a purpose. They just go into these places and then mess everything up. And they're like, well, because, we did. That's why we did it. And you're like, what? That's not a reason. What's going on? Why is this happening? I don't understand the Prime Directive when it comes to civilizations that are not in a space age yet. Like, I think unless they have a mission to, like, for social justice or for creating peace or like, helping people not die or live more comfortably or something, like, if they had specific goals in mind, that'd be one thing. But they're like, we never interfere, except we always interfere. And it's like, this is a paradox. You cannot both interfere and your prime directive is to never interfere, because then in every episode you interfere and you're like, oh, whoops. And then you leave all these people in bad conditions. That's it. That's all I have to say.
This episode was about the Vietnam War. Vietnam War was going on, and they decided to make an episode about it. And then they edited it and edited it and edited it until it was actually about this stereotypical shaman woman, wise woman, who is using her drugs and her sexuality to fuel her limitless ambition, and is treacherous and scheming and smarter than all of the men, but only able to rule through using men as figureheads. And give it, along with the frequent references to the Garden of Eden, it definitely goes to sort of an Eve place. With her, she's Eve, and the and Kirk, as usual, actually is the serpent. Kirk and the Enterprise as a whole.
And he's referring to guns as serpents too.
Yeah, but
okay.
yeah, I think the guns are more like the fruit. Pache, what they say, but so the Vietnam War metaphor. I looked this up quickly, and apparently the original script was really heavy-handed with the Vietnam War metaphor, as opposed to just the mildly heavy-handed way in which it is, and they specifically state, "Hey, this is like Vietnam, isn't it?"
They don't say the word Vietnam, but they say like, "Do you remember this like that conflict that happened in the 20th century, in which was sort of in an Asian area or something?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "What? Why are you gonna say it without saying it? Just say it."
Yeah. But so it was apparently more blatant, and then they edited it and changed it, and the writer was annoyed, and so insisted he be credited under a rather histrionic pseudonym instead of his actual name. I don't know what he was going for. The moral that the only correct thing to do is to have each superpower arm each side equally, because because neither of them can unilaterally disarm. Doesn't really make sense. Why are the Klingons even interested in this planet?
You don't know why they're there.
And why? And since they've got a treaty that forbids them doing this, why are they like resigned to just perpetuating this war forever instead of calling the Klingons out on this and telling them to stop or something? Especially now that the Klingons know that they're there because they saw each other. Instead they somehow rationalize that providing gradually better and better weapons to these people without giving them any other kind of assistance is somehow going to help them, because it would be really bad if one side won the conflict.
It just doesn't. Maybe it's intentionally bad. Like maybe they knew they couldn't do like an anti-Vietnam story, so they made a good one, but they made it really bad so that you would, as the audience, be like, "That's actually a pretty bad idea, Kirk. What was with that episode?" And then you look at the world and you're like, "Yeah, what? Why are we here? Why is this stupid?" But I don't know. That's my theory, maybe.
Yeah. The plotting of it leaves something to be desired. The ending is kind of abrupt and is facilitated by what they call third act stupidity, where somebody who's been behaving very intelligently throughout the whole thing just randomly does something stupid in order to end the story. And it's the Eve character there who does a whole like a quick succession of inexplicable decisions. Right when she's holding all the cards, and dies for it, of course. And she's dead from McCoy, and then it gets turned into motivation for like her husband to turn into a proper puppet, like military leader for the Federation. The Mugatu, I feel like that's a cool costume that they wasted on, like, cool by Star Trek's original series standards. They wasted it on just these two quick scenes. But the funny story about that is that McCoy couldn't pronounce the name that was actually in the script for that thing, and so they just officially changed the name to Mugatu, which he could say, and overdubbed it anytime anybody else said the name with Mugatu. But if you look at the credits, it still says the actual name.
The storytelling is so bad. Like, you keep thinking things are gonna turn into something. Like, this witch lady, like, she's bad and offensive and sort of stupid, but kind of gross and icky. But I don't know. I thought there was going to be something about the magic, and she has all these weird magic scenes where she's putting weird, creepy roots in people, and like looks like she's having an orgasm or something. Like, really creepy, gross. So you think that's going to turn into something, but then she just dies, and you're like, why did we? You know, like, I thought we were going to, like, get some backstory where she, like, tricked that guy into marrying her, because that didn't, no, there was none of that. Didn't amount to anything. I thought we were going to have some encounter with these Klingons, like, where the Klingons and the Federation have to talk to each other and, like, negotiate some kind of, like, okay, we won't kill each other in our arms race situation, whatever we have. They didn't do that. They just sort of ran away, but gave other people guns. None of it made any sense. And then why are they giving them guns, like, slowly getting better and better? Like, as if to, like, mimic technology growing. What, like, you're advancing their technology in a very specific way. It's not like you need to give it in steps. You could just give them a phaser. It works very similarly. It's just more effective. And then why does Kirk know how to shoot a gun? Like, he wouldn't. He would not know how to shoot a rifle.
Everybody on the bridge of the Enterprise knows the history of firearms in excruciating detail.
Yeah.
And, like, discusses this, actually points out the problem that you're saying there, but they never explain what that is. Like, I guess maybe the Klingons were trying to be sneaky and, like, trying to make it look, like, deniable, like it could be actual technological progress.
Oh, and so they have to match it because they, like, don't want to, like, give one side an unfair advantage or something. They just want everybody to die equally, question mark? Like, I don't really... Oh, man.
Yeah, it's a mess. Tune in next week for, I think, Return to Tomorrow. Or maybe that's just my generic term for when we watch more science fiction.
But we won't be here tomorrow. We'll be here Tuesday.
Tune in tomorrow for Return to next week.
No.